Hi everyone, welcome back to Aspergers from the Inside. You're here with Paul. So this month's Patron's Choice video topic is dealing with depression, and we're going to cover 4 things in the video today. First, I'll share my explanation of what depression actually is from an emotional intelligence perspective. We'll look at some common reasons you might be depressed, what it can look like for those of us on the spectrum, and finally, some things you can do to help manage in daily life. So before we start, I should say explicitly that this video is not a substitute for professional help. So if you're feeling depressed, then I encourage you to take your own health seriously and find someone you can talk to about it. So a really common question is, what's the difference between being depressed and just being sad? And how I explain this is that a depression is like being stuck in sadness. So I've graphed an incredibly oversimplified version of how our emotions work over here. And how our emotions are supposed to work is when something good happens, we feel happy, great. And then when that dies down, we go back to just feeling peaceful and okay. When something bad happens, when something sad happens, we feel sad. And then eventually when that dies down, we go back to feeling peaceful. So being stuck in sadness means that our bodies never quite get back to this I'm feeling okay, I'm feeling peaceful kind of place. And it also means that when we're sad, we can't appreciate things. Physiologically, you can't appreciate something when you're sad. So things that I used to be able to enjoy, if I'm depressed, I can't enjoy the things that I used to be able to enjoy. There could be potentially plenty of really, really good reasons to be happy, but because my body is stuck in sadness, I can't feel any of those reasons. And I feel sad even though intellectually I think, why aren't I enjoying myself in this situation? This is a good thing. Why can't I feel happy at the moment? So my analogy for this is it's a little bit like having asthma or something like that, where there's plenty of oxygen in the air and I'm trying to breathe, I just can't get the oxygen in the air into my lungs, right? So when you're depressed, there might be plenty of reasons to be happy, plenty of reasons to be thankful and grateful and all of that good stuff, but it just can't get the feeling of happy into my body because my body is literally stuck in this physiological state of sadness. So unfortunately, another thing that often happens when we get stuck in sadness is that we can tell ourselves that we don't deserve to feel sad, that we should feel happier, that we've got nothing to complain about or not as much to complain about, for example. And when people ask us, why are you sad? It's very hard to put your finger on exactly what the problem is. And that's because the problem is that my body is stuck in sadness, and that's why I feel sad. I'm not feeling sad because something bad has happened. I'm feeling sad because I'm depressed. My body is stuck in sadness. That's why I'm feeling sad. So we're jumping ahead a little bit, but one of the things that you can do to make depression a little bit better almost instantly is just accept that it's there. Accept that I am stuck in sadness at the moment. I don't have to force my body to be happy. I can just accept where I am. And then I'm taking away a level of mental anguish that I'm putting myself through. And I'd recommend a book called The Happiness Trap by Russ that talks a lot about what they call clean discomfort. Like I'm uncomfortable. Yes, it's not a fun feeling to be sad, but I don't need to make it worse by beating myself up thinking I shouldn't be sad at the moment. Okay, so number 2, what are some reasons that can lead our bodies to become stuck in sadness? So when I think of common reasons for depression, I'm thinking of internalized messages, especially around not being good enough, maybe due to bullying or other kind of social expectations, or perhaps a difficulty in finding friends and making meaningful social connections. And one thing I want to say to this is you are not alone. If you feel lonely, you are not alone. Trust me, there are so many people that feel alone, but we don't see it on the outside. We just feel it on the inside. And to make matters worse, when you're stuck in sadness, it physically inhibits your ability to feel connected, which means that we're much, much more likely to feel lonely, even if we've got the same amount of friends and the same amount of social contact. Okay, so what can depression look like in autistic people? This is a little bit tricky because we don't always show the same signs as other people. So if I spend a lot of time alone, does that mean I'm depressed? Well, not necessarily. If I don't want to do things that other people do, if my face has a really neutral affect to it, does it mean that I'm happy? Well, no, not necessarily. So instead, the things you can look for are around passion and motivation and energy. So part of being sad is we slow down and we feel tired. It's the opposite of being happy, where we speed up and we feel energized, right? Happy is energized, sad, it sort of takes all the energy and momentum away from us. So if a person is absolutely losing interest in a lot of things that would otherwise have been enjoyable, especially a special interest, if an autistic person is losing interest in their special interest, that's a really bad sign, unless it's being replaced by another equally powerful passion. So I know I'm getting depressed when I feel just tired all the time. I don't want to do anything. I can't even think of something nice to do because I imagine myself doing it, and the thought of doing something that should feel nice just isn't an attractive thought. So that's why when you're stuck in sadness, things that would otherwise have been enjoyable just aren't. So another way that comes to mind to find out if you're depressed or not, and I know this works for me, so test it out if it works for you. I need my alone time to recharge, right? And when I'm feeling healthy and I get my alone time, I feel great and I can finally shut out the world and rest and do all the things that I need to do. If I'm depressed, the minute I'm alone and I don't have a distraction keeping my mind occupied, suddenly everything's terrible and I can't deal with it and everything's caving in. So if you're the kind of person who needs alone time, you can tell if you're starting to get depressed if that alone time is getting to be more difficult, or you're even avoiding it because it's not a fun experience. Okay, so finally, number 4, getting help. How can we manage depression on a daily basis? So one of the challenges here is that asking for help for any kind of chronic illness, chronic health thing becomes really, really difficult because people want to help and they want to see an instant result. I'm feeling down. Oh, you're my friend. You want to cheer me up. And that's okay temporarily. But if I'm depressed, then after that cheer up has happened, I'm going to fall straight back down into my normal, everyday depressed self. And my friend who's cheered me up is going to say, oh, well, I did my best and there was nothing I can do. So the thing that has the most impact are long-term things. Our emotions fluctuate on a regular basis in the short term. That's completely natural. But what we want to do to help depression is find things that are going to slowly lift our mood regularly on a consistent basis. We often talk about depression linked with the phrase mental illness, and I personally find it much more helpful to think of depression being stuck in sadness as an emotional health issue rather than a mental health issue. So rather than thinking it's a chemical imbalance in my brain and I need to do something about it psychologically, that might be part of the solution, but also there's lots of emotional things that I can do in my daily life that are going to make a really big difference too. So when I think about what I can do to help myself if I'm feeling depressed, it's working on really long-term things like getting my diet right, or exercising, or getting a mindfulness or prayer routine or something like that. It's fostering meaningful connections with people on a regular basis. It's physical affection and things like that. Hugs for mental health. They have the power to physiologically make you feel better. And the issue is that, again, when I'm stuck in this sadness, those things, although they're actually doing me good, they won't necessarily feel good at the time. And this is where the spiral kicks in, because things that are good for me don't feel good, so I don't do them as much, and then I get even worse. I'd recommend another book called The Upward Spiral, which is all about the feedback loop of depression and how it gets worse and makes itself worse and worse and worse every day, and how to basically reverse that loop and get a little bit better every day, feel a little bit better tomorrow, and then all of a sudden it becomes easier and easier and easier because the good things that are making me more healthy start feeling better and better every day, which gives me even more motivation, even more energy, and the spiral continues like that. So in terms of how to cope and stay productive, or at least not have everything fall apart when you're really depressed, My biggest tip there would be around setting up routines that you just follow because you've decided intellectually that it's a good idea, and you're going to just push yourself to do what you know is a good thing to do. Because if you rely on your body of what I feel like doing, you're not going to feel like doing very much at all. And in terms of when to set that routine, you want to be feeling as good as possible when you decide what to do. If you're feeling like life is way too much and you just want to give up on everything, chances are your decisions are going to be like, oh, well, I'll just completely throw in the towel because everything's too hard. Whereas if you're feeling good in that moment, you're like, I can do this. What are the things that I need to do to actually get this done? So if you make your decisions when you're happy and you stick to those decisions when you're not feeling so good, you've got a better chance of actually getting the right things done. Because when you're happy, you're more likely to pick something that's actually good for you to do. Okay, so I want to finish on a positive note, which is to say that if you're struggling with depression at the moment, firstly, it's not your fault. Secondly, there are things you can do to help make it better. And those things are going to be relatively personal to you. You know, listen to your body. What's it trying to tell you? What needs are not being met? And if you understand why your body is doing these things, then it becomes a lot easier to find ways to give your body what it needs so that you can actually make it better. But at the end of the day, if you've already tried all of those things and you haven't found something that's working for you, the only thing I can recommend is to work on your emotional intelligence skills and understanding how your personal system works so that you can find out what you personally need. And you probably knew I was going to say that. If you've been watching me for a while, you know that emotional intelligence is one of my special interests. And one of the reasons is because when we understand how the system works, it gives us a huge amount of power to actually make a change to it and affect a change to our bodies and to our emotions if we know how they work. So learn how it works, learn the triggers, learn the traps, figure out strategies that work personally for you and your body. Okay, well, I hope you've enjoyed this month's Patron's Choice video. You can become a cup of coffee supporter of this channel for less than $1 a week. And if you're interested in more emotional intelligence stuff, you can also check out emotionsexplained.com.au, where I've got a course that I wrote that goes through the four areas of emotional intelligence in order that we understand the system and can take back control of our own emotions. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you another time. Bye.